Hey there, Sophia here. So I really think you're going to love this episode. Today's episode, I asked my Colombia colleague, client, and dear friend, Jolinda Johnson, who is living in Barcelona, Spain, to give us some tips on how she built her coaching practice. Jolinda is a fertility coach, and I know many of you probably have never heard about that, but as a woman over 30 with no kids, I get approached by fertility coaches all the time. So Jolinda is going to share what it's like to be a coach, what it's like to specifically work with women around pregnancy and mothering themselves and also mothering the world around us. And so this is a really interesting episode. We don't just talk about what it's like to build a business as a fertility coach, but we also go into a little bit about love and taking care of your body, taking care of your health. And so this is a really interesting piece that I think can apply to so many people. So tune in and let me know what stuck with you the most.
Welcome to the She Heals the World talk show with Dr.S, the place to hear stories of heart-driven women creatively living free. Our episodes highlight conversations and insights that support the values of self-care, creative and personal freedom, slower living, happiness, health, and wellness, to help you live your absolute best life. To be a part of the movement and join the conversation, step inside our free Facebook group, She Heals the World, and say hello. It brings me great joy to bring you our next episode.
Jolinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sophia. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, totally. I'm really excited to have you. So can you give our listeners an example of a client that you've had and how you've helped them so that we can get an idea of what fertility coaches do and maybe why the world needs more of them?
For me, fertility coaching has really evolved since I first started a year ago because originally I thought, okay, I'm going to help the highly motivated woman who's used to making a strategy, going after what she wants, following all the steps, and accomplishing the goal, which unfortunately, when it comes to conceiving a baby, it often doesn't work that way. Mm. So I thought I'm going to help the highly motivated woman who needs to basically ease her overwhelm, who needs someone to know all of the research and figure out exactly what applies to her, to make a personalized plan, to support her with surrender and letting go of control, who really doesn't want to, just wants someone to say, like, what is it that I'm missing and what do I need to do? Because it can be really hard to figure that out on your own, especially when you start reading all of the literature and you can put 5 books side by side and they all tell you to do a different thing. And so, it started out with the idea of how can I be that coach that I wanted when I wanted to conceive my second child and I really became overwhelmed myself.
So it's almost like replacing the research and making life easier for them. So like these are women who are up late at night Googling, like, why am I not getting pregnant? And then you kind of come in and guide them through the process in a really simple way while also almost being like a companion and support system to them.
Yes, exactly. But now it's kind of gone a bit deeper from my original vision because my goal with my fertility coaching is really to help women learn how to mother themselves. So women who are longing to become mothers, so that they can access that energy and first use it towards themselves. So how are they nourishing their bodies? How are they respecting their cycles? How are they tapping into the feminine energy of flow, of surrender, of divine creation? And so really helping women return to themselves on their mission to becoming mothers has become my broader vision.
How beautiful.
And that's what I'm doing currently.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And it sounds like it's even work that
it doesn't just apply to women who are trying to get pregnant. Like you mentioned, the cycle piece too, like even though your focus is helping them create, but you know, it sounds like all women could use that and could benefit from that, even if they're not even having issues with their cycle, but they just want to make sure that they're feeling good and that they're in a good place so that when they're ready to start trying, they kind of know what's coming and they know that they're all set.
Yes, exactly. And as I expand in my business, one of my goals is really to increase awareness around fertility, whether you are trying to conceive or not, because I think one of the things that I hear most often from my clients is, I wish I had known this sooner. Why didn't anyone tell me this? Why don't we talk about this? And it's, for me, it is, it's pretty ridiculous that most of us go 15, 20 years basically in the dark about what's going on with our bodies. And we can have Ivy League degrees, we can have doctorates, we can have, you know, all of this advanced education, but still not realize that when you have a period every 45 days, that's an issue, or that being on birth control for 20 years is not the best thing in the world. That, you know, that we have these symptoms that since we don't really talk about it, we just normalize it. Like, I guess PMS, for example, feeling out of control every month, that's normal because we don't talk about our periods, our menstrual cycles in a positive way normally, you know. At least I didn't until I was in my mid-30s. When I was in my 20s, and I actually lost my period as a result of anorexia, and for me that was great. You know? How great is that not to have a period? Which now I celebrate my period every month. I celebrate all the different phases in my cycle, and so that's another area that I really want to focus on going forward. I think it's so important for women to be in touch with that part of themselves.
Yeah, that's really profound that you said that, because it is true. And I think that the media plays a big part in that shame and in normalizing PMS and in kind of creating all of these drugs to control that, instead of really supporting women in celebrating their cycle, in celebrating being a woman, you know. It can be such a taboo topic. So tell me how you got started in this work. Like, what is your story and what brought you to even focusing on this as a profession? I mean, you do this as a full-time career now. It's your business. So how did you get started?
Well, I did my health coach certification with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in 2013. And I remember when we did the module on preconception and pregnancy, there's just something that I really connected with. And this is before I had my son. So I just remember feeling really curious about it, really excited by it. And I thought, okay, when I go into health coaching, I want to work with women around fertility and pregnancy. But at the time, I was married to someone or at that time we were just engaged, but he was like the personification of my inner critic. So he basically said, "You've never had a baby. Who's going to listen to you?"
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of,
it's like, thanks.
Yeah. So
crushing my dreams.
Back in 2013, I knew that was something that was really lighting me up, but I didn't have the courage to pursue it as a career. I was still very much entrenched in my previous profession as a teacher, and I just kind of put it in my pocket. And so when it was time for me to have my son, I actually got pregnant on the first cycle, and that was a result of many factors, but it had to do with my diet that I'd been following for years. You read about detoxing your personal care products, your cleaning products, all that stuff, and that can sometimes cause panic in women because they look around and think, oh my God, everything is toxic. But I had found out about that 5 years before even trying to conceive. So that was all just like second nature to me. Eating mostly organic all of those things that they recommend, I was already doing. So I actually became pregnant with my first son without much of an effort. I wasn't, I just kind of let it happen, basically. But then when I decided that I wanted to have a second child, when my son was around 18 months old, then I thought, okay, when you are a new mom, everything goes a bit haywire, especially when you are a new mom who doesn't have a support system, who's living in a foreign country, and whose husband thinks that the baby should be your responsibility while he works, 12 hours a day. Just that was his vision, like you take care of the baby and all the domestic stuff. And I chose to stay home. And because I had that opportunity to stay home with my son for the first year and a half. And I don't think I would do that again. Full-time stay-at-home mom. It wasn't a good fit for me. But, that was the model that we followed. And so anyway, I did need to make certain changes because I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't doing, a lot of the things that I was doing 2 years before that were good for fertility, just, without even thinking of it. And so I thought, okay, I know I need to make changes, so I'm going to start reading up on what I need to do. And once I started reading, because, I'm a reader, I'm a researcher, I just became completely overwhelmed. Completely overwhelmed.
Drinking from a fire hose,
it was just like, wow, where do I even begin? And it basically just became my obsession. Like, what more can I do for my fertility? And the more I focused on that, the more stressed out I became, the more closed off I became to everything else that was happening in my life, because I just got, laser focused on this one thing. And I thought, wow, if I'm feeling this way, I am sure I'm not the only one. And I would really like someone to support me, to be able to say, look, Jolinda, this is something that you can relax about, or, Jolinda, you're already doing this really well. Why don't we focus on the things that we can celebrate instead of constantly focusing on the things that you feel guilty about, or that you're not doing right, or whatever. And also what I realize now in hindsight is that I was so focused on the external information, and I was so out of touch with my inner wisdom, with my intuition. And that's something else that I really help my clients with, is you becoming your own expert, because you can read a million different opinions, but what is it that your body is trying to tell you? What is it that your intuition is trying to tell you, that your inner wise woman is trying to tell you? And so I basically went on my own journey as I was building my coaching practice. And one of the things that I arrived at, that I let my intuition finally tell me, is that as much as I wanted a second child, what I really wanted more was to get a divorce and be out of my marriage, and to finally become an entrepreneur and stop being an employee and really devote myself to the things that scared me, like really scared me, but that I knew would ultimately be the key to my success. So instead of trying for a second child, I started growing a business.
Which became your second baby. Absolutely.
And still is. It still is, Sometimes I feel like it's been born, and other times I feel like I'm in the third trimester.
Right. Yeah. I think, it's amazing that tapping into that voice within us, that it really helps to uncover a lot of areas in our lives that need correction. Like, you went on this journey looking to get pregnant, for a second time, and that caused you to pull away from so much of the research and to really start to dig deep within yourself, which then uncovered areas that are out of alignment for you.
Yeah.
And I think to have the courage of being able to make those changes so that you are happy and in the best place is really admirable. And I'm sure many, many women can relate to like this opening up Pandora's box once you ask yourself the tough questions and then supporting yourself in taking action. And I think that's the power of coaching is, you know, you can't, when you uncover all those things and all that baggage, it just comes spilling out and you have this feeling of like, oh my God, I'm going to fall apart. But when you have that person next to you that's like, you're okay, I'm here to support you in making the decisions that will best serve you. You're not alone. You feel like you can do so much more. Amazing.
Absolutely. And that's really why I decided to become a certified life coach, because I knew that my health coaching, yes, helped me with, identifying certain foods and IEN really emphasizes primary foods as well. So, relationships and work-life balance and things like that. But I felt like I was really missing the tools to help women specifically get to the root of their desires, of their vision for themselves, of those parts that they had kind of shut down or abandoned along the way. And for me, coaching is really about transformation, because you can sit down and take in all of the information that you want, but without a coach, especially, I'm biased, but I think that female coaches have superpowers. As women, we have superpowers.
Totally do. Yeah.
And it's an incredible experience to have someone holding space for you, to listen to you, and for you to really listen to yourself, to have someone repeat back what you said and like, is that really what I think about myself? Is that really what I want? And I've seen so many clients take great strides just from that alone. And it's really about having someone ask you the right questions, not giving you the answers, but asking the right questions. And that's where the real growth comes from.
Amen to that. We are our greatest teacher. Yeah, totally. So we went from like having this idea, feeling really empowered, putting it together, but I don't ever want to mislead people and act like it's totally easy. I'm sure there have been some hurdles that you've had to overcome in the building process. And so I just love for you to share a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that you've had, and then talk about your wins, like the challenges and then what wins you've had in comparison to that.
I don't want to mislead anyone either, because I do have a lot of women tell me all the time that even through my Instagram stories, I have women that I've never met say like, wow, you are such an inspiration. And I really appreciate that, but it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And I think that that's why it's so important to constantly reconnect to your why and your purpose, because your purpose and your passion have to be greater than your fear, because you're always going to have fear. But I'm at the point now where, I waited for a good 3 or 4 years before I acted on this dream of mine, because I was terrified. And I think that one of the first hurdles that I had to overcome was breaking out of the employee mentality. Assuming the entrepreneur mentality is huge, especially when you're used to being a profession like teaching, where when you're in your classroom, you're on your own, but you always have a framework in place that's supporting you, right? That's dictating your time and what you need to do each day, and what people are expecting of you. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's, you are the master of your schedule, of your goals, of what you're creating, of what you're putting out into the world. And that was a big change for me. And it's one that I'm still growing into, because there's still part of me that thinks, that someone is going to say, Jolinda, this is due on a certain day.
Right.
And so
don't
really,
we all wish that?
And sometimes I reach out to my other coaching friends and say, this is what I need to do by this date. Could you hold me accountable to that? Because that can be really hard when you're on your own. Another one I think would be when you have children and you need to figure out, okay, childcare, domestic tasks like cleaning, for example, that you might need to outsource because you need that time for your business and you can't do it all. Really setting, for me, it was hard to set boundaries and to admit that I couldn't do it all and that I did need help. Because I couldn't be stretched in so many different directions. And the key for that is to really, admit to what you can't do, outsource it, and be fully present in the things that you can do. So if you are working, you're working. If you're with your children, you're with your children. And for example, and, another big hurdle, which I think a lot of women can relate to, is just believing that you can do it. Not letting your inner critic run the show, because you're really not going to get very far if you keep listening to what she has to say. I was never used to celebrating myself, of patting myself on the back, of emphasizing the good things about myself, my gifts, my talents. I was much more comfortable with putting myself down. And that's something that I really had to work on, because, it's that realization that you're not going to get anywhere if you keep playing small. And, I kind of had to, what really worked for me is, one, changing it around so that I am actually being selfish by holding on to my gifts and talents, by not sharing them with the world, by not launching my program, by not creating my Facebook group. Like, I don't want to be selfish. I want to share. So
the commitment.
That's one thing that helped me. Another one was because I am a spiritual person, and, really affirming I am a child of God, and I am capable of whatever it is I imagine for myself. Why am I constantly limiting my potential when my potential is limitless? That's another thing that really helped me, and still does. I'm not perfect. I haven't overcome all of my demons, but
we're all works in progress.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love, I always say, like, building your business is like the best personal development lesson in the world. And that it's not really about the end game. Like, yes, the freedom is amazing, and you get to support yourself, and you get to create revenue that is, that doesn't have a cap on it and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's about who you become in the process. And what you just said about learning the power of presence, about learning how to really be supported, to accept and receive support, and to be able to get that support when you know you need it, whether it's outsourcing the cleaning of the house or the dishes or the picking up the laundry at the dry cleaners or whatever else, but really being able to prioritize what's most important to you. And then really having a focus on what you desire, right? Like knowing that this is how I desire to be of service to the world. This is how I desire to use the gifts and talents that were naturally gifted to me. this is how I want to show up and give back. And when you stay focused on that and you just accept and go with the experience, you can't lose. You can't lose. Whether your business is successful or not, your business is successful, so I'm really excited about that. But even if God forbid something, there are people who build and it doesn't always work out the way that they want, but it's about the journey, not the destination. So awesome. Yeah. Thank you for highlighting that for us. But we have some folks that might be listening who are trying to improve their fertility. And I know you have a little gift to share with us today about some fertility-friendly foods that people can incorporate into their diet. So give me the list. I'm really excited to hear about this.
So it's really hard to make a condensed list of fertility-friendly foods because there are just so many that are beneficial. And for me, the basics of a fertility-friendly diet, one that emphasizes clean protein, healthy fat, lots of fruits and vegetables, and then there are, certain gray areas like whether or not to include dairy. If you do, always full fat dairy. Whether or not you include soy. If you include soy, always fermented, for example. But I try to include foods that most people will want to include that are really beneficial. And I want to emphasize that if you are interested in having a baby, the time to make changes to your diet and to start taking your prenatal vitamin. I always recommend a prenatal vitamin, an omega-3 supplement, DHA, EPA supplement, CoQ10 if you're over 35, and a high-quality probiotic. In addition to those supplements that you should take 3 months before you start trying, any changes to your diet should also be 3 months before you start trying, because the most important phase in the maturation of the egg cell happens in those last 90 days before conception, and that will actually influence if the pregnancy is successful and is a healthy pregnancy going forward.
Yeah.
So, and one more thing that I just want to mention, if you don't mind, Sophia, is that your partner's diet also matters. So it shouldn't just be you who is including these beautiful fertility foods, but also your partner who is looking at his diet as well. And there are certain foods that really are more beneficial for men that I won't get into. The ones I chose are more specific for women, but don't let your partner off the hook. He contributes 50% of the equation, and now they're finding that sperm is implicated in recurrent miscarriage, in failed pregnancy, in taking longer trying to conceive. So when you're thinking about fertility, it really is, man and woman coming together, or at the very least, sperm cell, egg cell, if you're not in a heterosexual relationship.
It takes two to tango. Really interesting. Nobody really, that's a whole nother conversation in itself, but nobody ever really talks about that. All of the pressure is always on the woman. And I think that has a lot to do with our culture, right? And kind of living in this patriarchy. And I love that you mentioned that, so that the women can also empower their partners to take care of their health too. Okay, so give me the foods. What are the foods?
Okay, so first thing that you should be eating basically every day, leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. So leafy greens are natural body cleansers. They improve circulation, blood purification, liver and gallbladder health. They're also a great source of folate, which you might know by its synthetic form, folic acid, which is linked to a decrease in neural tube defects during pregnancy. But before conception, it's been linked to increased progesterone levels, which are really important for supporting the pregnancy in its early days, and lower risk of irregular ovulation. So aim for 2 servings a day of leafy green vegetables, which is about a half cup of cooked spinach or a half cup of cooked broccoli. And one of the things I do is I always keep a bag of pre-washed spinach in my refrigerator, because if I don't have time for lunch, I since I work from home, I usually eat at home as well. And so I'll saute baby spinach with zucchini noodles, and then toss that with olive oil, sea salt, and maybe some leftover chicken, which is a really easy, high protein, vegetable filled lunch. And some cherry tomatoes. Super simple.
Yes.
In terms of broccoli, I really like having that steamed, and then I drizzle it with olive oil and tahini, which makes it delicious, and sea salt. And it's super easy.
I love tahini. Yeah, tahini tastes delicious. Putting tahini on anything will make it delicious.
Yes, absolutely. Another thing that you should be including in your diet on a regular basis is fish. And so that's fish that's been wild caught, that's low in mercury, like salmon, halibut, mackerel, and cod. And for some of my clients, that's overwhelming because they don't really include fish in their diet. But everyone can eat sardines. Canned sardines. Canned sardines. If you're used to eating canned tuna, stop eating the canned tuna and start eating canned sardines because they're super high in omega-3. That will help control inflammation and improve circulation, which they're high in calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and they are super easy to eat with a salad. So one of the ways I eat sardines, at least twice a week, I'll make a salad with, lettuce, red cabbage, tomato, cucumber, beetroot, avocado, sardines. And then, olive oil.
You are a great cook, Jolinda. All the stuff you're making sounds delicious. I'm so plain. I'm like, okay, I'll just take some lettuce out, wash it, dry it, and chop some onions. Delicious. Wow.
So, and if you really want to get fancy, throw in some hemp seeds to that. And another one, berries. So berries are a source of natural antioxidants. They're anti-inflammatory. They're full of phytonutrients. And so one of my favorite ways to eat berries, especially for women who are trying to cut down on sugar, raspberries and a bit of coconut milk is a great dessert.
Do you freeze the coconut milk or you just pour it in?
No, you just drizzle it over.
Coconut milk is kind of creamy.
Yeah, no, I just drizzle it over. If you want to do a coconut, if you want to get fancy and make a coconut cream, by putting the coconut cream in the refrigerator and then whipping it up, and that's fine. But if not, just drizzle over the coconut milk and gobble it up. And that's a really satisfying dessert. And then the last thing I wanted to mention were foods that are rich in zinc. So lamb, organic grass-fed beef, pumpkin seeds. But another one that I know will be popular with practically all of your listeners is raw cacao, also known as chocolate. So this is because it's just so you know a little bit about my diet, and I'm not trying to conceive, but for me, a fertility diet is really a diet that makes you feel vibrant, sexy, nourished. And it's not something that you only follow when you want to have a baby. It's something that you follow just to feel good yourself, because we deserve to nourish ourselves. Whether or not we want to create new life. We need to remember that we ourselves are miracles, and we deserve that as well. So, I don't eat sugar, for example, and one of the things that really keeps me on track with that is having 85% dark chocolate every day. If I ever feel like indulging, I will have 85% dark chocolate, and I know that it's not harming me in any way because it's very low sugar. It gives me that feeling that I'm having a treat. And I also include it, raw cacao in my smoothie in the morning. I make my favorite smoothie right now is chocolate mint maca smoothie, and maca is another superfood for fertility.
I love maca. Yeah,
exactly. So in my smoothie, I get a super greens powder, which I recommend by Sun Warrior. It has a flavor of mint. Maca, raw cacao, some medium triglyceride oil, which is a really accessible fat source, and almond milk, coconut milk, as well as collagen, which is also really good when you are trying to conceive as well as pregnant, because it gives your skin extra elasticity and can prevent stretch marks, which none of us want. So, if you look into fertility superfoods, like the ones I just, like maca, like cacao, goji berries, bee pollen, etc., smoothies are a great way to get all of those in one shebang. So
yeah. Wow. Jolinda, that is so much information. And so for people who want to learn more and want somebody to guide them through this process, and like you said, I think these foods are helpful. I'm not trying to conceive either. And I think, when I'm listening to you give off all the list of foods, I'm like, oh, I need to start eating those. And so it's good for anyone at any stage, any woman who is trying to nourish her health. But for those women who do want support or want more advice on, what do I need to do and how can somebody guide me through this process, where can our listeners find you?
So my website is jolindajohnson.com. My Facebook group is called Fertile as I Wanna Be, which is a group for women who want to feel fierce, fertile, and free wherever they happen to be on their fertility journey. And I am always on Instagram at Coach Jolinda, and on Facebook as well at Coach Jolinda.
Beautiful. So if you could give any piece of advice to your 10-year younger self, what would it be?
Believe in yourself, Jolinda. You can do whatever you put your mind to. You are worthy.
You are worthy. Thank you so much, Jolinda, for coming on the show today. It was such a pleasure.
You're welcome, Sophia. The pleasure was all mine. Had a great time.
Beautiful. Awesome.
This episode was brought to you by Fearless and Free. Fearless and Free is my online training program that teaches women entrepreneurs and aspiring course creators how to create, launch, and profit from your first online course. Online courses have produced tremendous freedom in my business, and I would love to share my technique and strategy with you. If you are interested in launching a profitable online program, visit shehealstheworld.com/freebie to grab your free tool sheet that brings you behind the scenes on all the tools that I use to run my online practice. Thanks for listening in. Lots of love. See you in the Facebook group.